Welcome back. Until now, in all the previous steps, we did not really authenticate the user whether he has logged in or not before we actually take the user to a specific link. So all the pages appear even though a user has not really logged in. Now, the question is, how do we track if a user has logged in or not? One of the options which is available to track whether a user has logged in or not is something called a session storage. If you look at all the browsers, they have something called session storage, and whatever we put in session storage is available to the application while user is logged in into the current browser window session. So if you do a right click inspect and go down to the application tab, I'm using Chrome obviously, you can check out this storage section where if you expand this, you can see that this specific application does not really have anything in session storage. What we can do is when a user logs in, we can set a key into session storage. And when a user logs out, we can remove the key out. And we can use that to check if a user has logged in or not. The great thing is if you close the browser window and come back, the session storage is completely cleared out. Thereby, a user would be treated as if he is logged out. What we'll do in this step is we'll try and put something into session storage when a user logs in. So when a user logs in successfully in 28 minutes dummy and clicks login, what we want to do is we would want to put a entry in the session storage that the user has logged in. In the next steps, we will make use of this specific key token, whatever you'd want to call it, and use it to check before we render all the other pages. Let's get started now. So if we look at the login click method, this is the method which is called when login is clicked on the to-do app, actually on the login page. We are checking if the user ID password is fine. This is hard-coded for enough. If it is fine, what we want to do is we would want to put something in session storage. What we'll do is all the interaction with session storage, we would do it through a new module. So what I'll do is on to do, I'll create a new file. I'll call this authentication service.js. This would be a JavaScript file. So I'll create a authentication service class. And what I will do here is I'll create an instance of it, export default. I'll create an instance of it and export it. So what happens is now this class is available to to-do app. So if I want to make use of this authentication service, what should I do in the to-do app? I should import it. So I'll say import authentication service from /authentication service. So the authentication service is now available. Let's create a simple method in here. I'll call this method. What we want to do in here is we would want to register the fact that a user has really logged in. So we'll create a method for that, and I'll call this register successful login. And I'll have two parameters to this. One is the username and the other one is the password. So once a user has successfully logged in, what we want to do is we would want to be able to put a value in the storage. How do we do that? Into the session storage. So if you look at JavaScript directly provides something called session storage. So if you do session storage dot set item, you can say, let's just say authenticated user. Authenticated user, comma, username. Let's not use the password for now. The password, let's not really worry about it for now. For now, what we have done is we've created a simple method, authentication service. Actually, we created a class and we created a method in it, register authentication service, and we exported an instance of this authentication service. Now, the to-do app, we already imported the authentication service instance. So what we can do in the login component, when login is clicked, what we can do is we can say authentication service dot register successful login. And to make sure that this specific method is called, what I'll also do is do a console.log register successful login. Let's save to do app as well, and let's see what's happening in the browser. Okay. It says, when I go to the browser, I see an error. It says, I am unable to import authentication service.jsx. The reason is because since the extension of this file is JSX, it's thinking the authentication service is also a JSX file. It's not, it's a JS file. So let's just say authentication service.js. And when I go back, there's another error. It says cannot call a class as function. The reason is because I forgot the new keyword in here. So we want to create a new instance of this. So let's see what happens. Now you can see that we have the page rendering. I'll go to the login and do login dummy. Let's see what's happening in the console and say login. You can see that register successful login is present, and also you can see that authenticated user, the value is undefined. Why is it undefined? It's undefined because we did not pass the username and password. So let's pass the username and password. How do we pass the username and password? This.state.username and this.state.password. So let's pass them in and let's again retry. Login in 28 minutes, dummy, and login. Now you can see that in session storage, we have something called authenticated user in 28 minutes. You'd see that as long as I am on this application, this value would remain in here. It's not really going out from here at all. So in this step, what we did is we created the authentication service and we used it to make sure that whenever user tries to log in and he logs in successfully, we set something into the session storage so that we know that a user has successfully logged in. I'll see you in the next step. Until then, bye-bye.